Today we'll be continuing with the curriculum, right? So we have something about tech that we'll be discussing today, and we'll be covering one question of metrics, right? We had not discussed any example for metrics questions, right? So I told you that this is the framework for metrics questions. First, we describe the product, then we try to understand what is the goal of the product, right? What is the job of the product? And then we identify users. We write down the user journey of the users. They start from, let's say, um, they open the Flipkart app, they search for a product, and out of the listed products, they choose one listing and then open the product details page and then go ahead and add to cart and then buy that product, right? This is in case of an e-commerce sign up flow. So that is the user journey. Here I would want to point out that after you've mentioned the user journey, you can either prioritize one metric out of all the metrics that we had discussed, these ones. You can either prioritize one of them, or you can ask the interviewer, is there any particular metric you want me to focus on, or should I list down the metrics for each of these categories? So these are categories basically, right? So these are categories, and within each category you can have multiple metrics. For example, a metric for retention can be how many people return to watch my YouTube channel every week, something like that, right? So the number of returning users would be a retention metric in this case, right? So we start listing down the metrics for each of these categories, and or let's say if you focus only on retention, then only the metrics for this. Then you evaluate those metrics and prioritize. Let's say you list down 7-8 metrics, right? Or 3-4 metrics. Just prioritize on one main metric, and the others can be secondary metrics. So one can be a primary metric, others can be secondary metrics, which is also called a focus metric, and L1, L2 metrics. Then summarize. Right, so this I have just summarized what we've already discussed. These were some examples. Today we'll take up this example. Yeah, we can start with this example. So everyone has heard of Facebook stories, right? You've seen the Facebook stories. You can open your Facebook app if you have that app installed and see the feature right now also. So I'll do that. I'll not be able to present, but this is just like Instagram stories. This is like so you know the concept of Insta stories, right? This is very similar. So let's start with solving this question. How would you measure the success of Facebook stories? How would we start this question? What is the first thing that you would do here? Yes, guys, answers. How would we start solving this question? So let's say I'm the interviewer, I've asked you this question. What is the first thing that you will ask me to narrow down your scope?
How many people regularly post stories?
Okay. But how would that, so isn't that a very specific question? How many people regularly post stories? So how would the interviewer answer this question? The interviewer will not give you a specific number, right? So see, you need to narrow down the question. So ask questions that help you answer this better. For example, you can ask, are we talking about, so see, any product feature means that, let's say, this is a very common question. How would you measure the success of any product or feature? This is a common question, and there's a specific framework we use for this that I've already told you. And here, you should ask questions like, let's say, are we talking about, now Facebook stories is a very specific product, but usually they give some broad products like success of YouTube or success of Facebook. Now within Facebook, we need to narrow down on what exactly are they wanting to measure the success of, right? You can ask, yes, you can ask how many people know about this? Yes, you can ask some, you can have some idea about Facebook stories, but you'll not be able to ask directly what is the number of people using Facebook stories. You can, okay, so the North Star metric is what we need to find out, right? So we cannot ask this question here. They want us to measure the success of Facebook stories. What is the metric that will help us measure the success? That is the question. So you cannot directly ask what is the North Star metric we will be focusing on, right? Exactly. So the first question has to be, what is success according to him? We need to understand what is the meaning of success. Now success can be more people using it. Success can be more people downloading Facebook, right? Because that also directly affects this. Or success can be how many people open Facebook stories and watch at least 5 stories a day, right? Or it can be how many people upload stories, right? I might be a very active user of Facebook, but I might not use Facebook or upload any story, right? So success, understand the success. What is the meaning of success here? That is the first thing. Understand the product. That is one thing that I think no one asked. What is the product? Understand it properly. Even if you have to ask the interviewer to allow you to open the app and see the feature, then also it's perfectly all right. Motive of Facebook behind this feature? Yes, again a good question. You should ask what was the ultimate goal of Facebook stories, right? So let's move back one step and see. First we ask these questions, right? That is step 1. Step 2 is describing the product, understanding what is the goal of the product, right? For example, why did Facebook launch the Facebook stories feature, or what is the job of this feature? You can ask these questions to understand the product better. Now features success basically is tied to the overall success metric of the product. So let's say the feature will be successful only if that metric goes higher, right? Let's say 100 million downloads is a metric. In a hypothetical example, 100 million downloads is the number of downloads is a metric. As soon as that number increases or crosses 100 million, then that means my product is successful, right? So measuring the success of product is directly related to a metric that you need to understand. Okay, a product's success also revolves around the entire company goal. For example, most of Google's products help us to make the information more organized and make information more accessible. So that is the goal of Google as a company, and all of the products sort of satisfy this goal, right? They solve problems in order to make information more accessible. So that is there. Similarly, here you would have some goal of the product. So okay, now we've asked these questions, we've described the goal of the product. What would be the next step? Let's say the interviewer has answered that the success of Facebook stories is more people uploading stories. Let's say that is the answer of the interviewer. What would you do? What would be the next step? I'll quickly see what we've covered. So first we've described the product. We've defined the product goal. We've defined success. We've asked what is success. We've asked this question. Now, yeah, of course, there can be multiple answers. Success can mean achieving the goal that we had defined earlier, right? This goal. Or it can mean revenue. Many a times it is revenue. Or does it mean any of the following? These things, right? All these metrics. Now, let's say I have told you that success means more people uploading a Facebook story. So what would be the next step in that case? For how long a story is uploaded? No, that is not considered. You can ask this question, yes, because when you are listing down metrics, these are some things that you need to know. So the next step would be start listing down the metrics, right? You already know what is the meaning of success. Now start listing down the metrics. For example, I've told you number of people uploading the Facebook stories. So one thing that we can do to increase the number of people uploading more stories is make the feature more discoverable, make it easier to upload stories, right? Those are some things we can do. But how would we measure the success? I want to increase number of uploads. So metrics for uploading Facebook stories. I want some metrics for increasing number of uploads. Okay, someone mentioned frequency of uploading stories. Think of it this way: whether would frequency of uploading stories increase the number of uploads? That would not increase it, right? So that just tells me whether people are uploading, or for how many times are people uploading in a month or a week. That is the kind of thing it is telling me. Gives me some idea, yes, but does not tell the complete picture. Number of sign-ups. Okay, more people signing up on Facebook. Uploads increase if more people are signing up, but think of better metrics, guys. So in order to think of this, you can divide it into the user journey part, right? That helps you understand it better. So let's say this is the Facebook stories screen. In the interview, you can design this, right? You can use Figma to wireframe there and then. That will leave a good impression. So let's say these are the Facebook stories, right? This one, I think the first one is upload your story. Right? This one, you can upload your own story. And this one, all the other ones are your friend stories. Right? So let's say this is your feed. I think there's something like post something new, right? And this is a camera button here, something like that is there. Then below this, all your the feed part is there. So how to make more people upload stories? First of all, this feature is very discoverable, right? We can probably we can increase the size of stories. You can do things which affect this part, and to measure the success, we can look at number of people clicking on this button. So CTR of this plus button, right? Number of people uploading stories. Okay, another can be how many stories a person views each day. That would not tell me how many people upload stories, but that would at least tell me how much Facebook stories is being used, right? Does this sound good? Any questions still here? What age group is uploading the stories more? This is not a metric. This is a categorization. This will help me identify which age group is which age groups are using Facebook stories more. But I want metrics that measure the success. So which means how many people are using Facebook stories or uploading new stories, all of that. Okay, how many of the other friends of the user uploading the story, so that user motivates to upload. Yes, this is there. This is a metric. How many friends? So you need to write this properly. I'll just write this down here. You should write average number of people. Average number of people watching stories per day, or you should write average number of stories watched by one person per day. Average number of stories watched per day by one person. Right? This can be one metric. What can be other metrics? Number of stories uploaded per day, or put it this way, CTR of upload story button, right? Click through rate of this button. Average number of stories each, yes, definitely average number of stories each user is uploading per week. So this can be a good metric. So we have started listing down the metrics, right? So this is the activity that you need to do in the interview. List down 4 or 5 metrics and then prioritize. Look at the metrics which are more indicative of the success of the product, right? Here the product is Facebook stories, product or feature. So some of these would be very, very indicative, would directly tell you that the Facebook stories feature is successful or not. But some of them would indirectly tell you that. So prioritize the ones accordingly. Okay, time spent on watching stories. Yes, this can be a metric. Although I told you that the interviewer has basically told you that we are not considering the time spent on watching stories. Okay, more more metrics. Average number of stories, average number of views a story is getting, which is posted by an average guy using Facebook. Yes. So number of stories watched, right? I mean number of views actually. Number of views per story. And whenever we talk about these things, we always look at the average. Average number of views per story. This tells me that people are interacting with the story more, right? So let's categorize this in engagement. This is an engagement kind of thing. CTR of upload story button. This is acquisition of this feature, right? So I've started categorizing this into various, I mean these metric categories, right? So what would be this one? Average number of stories watched per day by one person. This would come under which metrics category? Yes, this would also come under engagement. Reacting to the story would again tell me about engagement, so it definitely counts, right? So number of reactions. This is interesting, right? So we are doing something that product managers do every day, and identifying metrics is the most important thing that PMs can do. So that is there. Even product analysts, data analysts spend all of their most of their time, managing metrics, trying to improve product through seeing these numbers, right? Okay, there's a second part to your question. Average reactions a story gets upon average number of average reactions a story gets, or average number of stories to which a user reacts to. Yes, number of reactions on my story versus number of reactions that my reactions, right? Or my reactions. How many reactions I have? Number of reactions given by me. All right. Yeah, I think we have done this activity successfully. I just wrote down the first 2 metrics. The rest of the ones are given by you guys only. So good job. You just had some difficulty in getting started, right? But now I think you understand how do we list metrics, right? Any other metrics? Any other interesting metrics you want to point out? All right, let's classify these into categories. So what are the categories? First, look at that. All these are the categories. These ones, right? These are all the categories. Let's start classifying them into these categories. So first one, average number of stories engagement. Yes. CTR of upload story button. How many people are getting acquired, right? How many people are starting to use this feature? This can be acquisition. This can also give me an idea about. So this is actually activation, not acquisition. This is activation. Acquisition would not be defined here, I think. So average number of stories each user uploads. Which category does this belong to?
Activation.
per week पे तो retention हो जाएगा ना, that they are
Sir?
retained in, ये third वाला retention नहीं हो जाएगा, because they are retained, they are uploading stories once again.
Correct. Retention. So when we look at average number of stories each user has uploaded in the first week, that would not be retention, that would be activation, right? Let's say each user uploads in their respective first week, right? That is activation. But when we look at all later weeks, we'll talk about retention. Right? So let's say this number was let's say 28 million at one time in the first week. Next week it decreased to 26 million, and next week it increased to 29 million. So this will help me identify out of the people who, let's say, out of 28 million people, only 26 million people came back for the second week, and out of these 28 million people, let's say out of these 28 million people, some people returned here, but some more different people also came here, right? And this 26 million people can also include some other people, right? So here what we do is we create a retention cohort. We do a cohort analysis, and we look at, let's say, there were X number of people. Out of them, how many came back in the first week? That is Y. And out of those Y number of people who came back in the second week, how many came back for the third week? That is Z. So we create these retention cohorts. Let's say out of 6 million people who landed on or who started using Facebook stories, only 4 million came back in the second week. And out of these 4 million people, only 1 million came back in the third week. That is a typical retention cohort. I'll try to show you a picture later on, but this is the kind of thing that we do while tracking retention. All right. Engagement, yes, average number of views per stories is engagement. What else? What would time spent tell me? Okay, there are a few questions. Number of reshares, correct. Yes. Number of reshares would definitely be, would tell me how many people are interacting. So that is also engagement. Okay. What does time spent tell you? Which category does this belong to?
Engagement.
Correct. What does number of reactions tell you?
Engagement. This is all engagement.
Yes. Everything, all these things tell you about engagement. So there are a few things which tell you about activation. So acquisition does not work here. We are not acquiring any users. This is not applicable here. Awareness is definitely applicable here. Many people might not know about Facebook stories, but Facebook has solved for awareness in a very brilliant way. They've kept it on top of the page, right? No one can possibly miss Facebook stories at any cost. Right. So I mean, about 99% of the people would be aware. 99% of Facebook users would be aware of Facebook stories, or Insta users would be aware of Insta stories. So awareness is there. Activation conversion we've already looked at. How many people are uploading their first story? Engagement, we've already looked at lots of metrics. This is done. Retention, we have looked at this. None of you looked at monetization, which is very wrong, because See how many. So let's say you watch 3 stories and then you see an ad, right? An advertisement story. So you should also look at what is the kind of revenue we are getting. So how many ads we saw. Now, none of you talked about this thing, that whether we are talking about success from a user point of view or whether we are talking about success from a company point of view, right? Which is displaying its advertisements or an advertising agency for that matter. So all these things are important. Make sure you don't forget monetization, because this is an important part. Let's say I told you that we just want to focus on revenue, then you would have definitely listed down some different metrics, right? So we need to also keep this in mind. And the last one can be referral. We don't have referral here for Facebook stories, so this is also not applicable here. All right, so this was Facebook
Can
stories.
a referral be us posting our friend's story on our own story? जैसे
um
करते हैं ना,
okay, okay,
your
tag करके you are saying.
या टैग करके your friend posted this tagging
That
you,
is not
वैसा
referral,
वाला.
that is engagement only. So
अच्छा
referral means someone who is not using that thing as of now starts to
अच्छा
use that.
ओके.
Yeah, that is how referrals are defined. Number of reshares we counted, yes, okay. Instagram and Facebook allows to upload stories simultaneously. We can look at this aspect also. How many people uploaded a story on Facebook? Just because there's a feature on Instagram, upload this to Facebook as well. Right? There's a feature on Instagram, when you upload a story, you see that feature, right? Upload the same story on Facebook as well or not. If you want to upload that, you can
Hmm.
just touch that one. So you can also look at that, but that is very specific. We are wanting to measure success of Facebook stories. uh, we are not looking at that feature. Okay, so we've listed down these metrics. Now we can prioritize. We can, let's say I want to, let's say this is the best metric. I'll say that this is the focus metric. Then I'll say that this is my L1 metric. Even time spent can be a good metric, or let's say average number of views per story is a good metric. This can be L1, these can be L2, right? So you can, in this manner, you can prioritize. You can divide this into various categories. Most important primary ones are, so there's only 1 or 2 primary metrics at max. And then there can be other secondary metrics, L2 and L3 metrics, right? Okay, so this was Facebook metrics, sorry, Facebook stories. And if there are any questions pertaining to this, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll move to behavioral questions. Okay, so okay, if there are no more questions, I'll quickly jump to this. We've discussed the STAR approach, right? Situation, task, action, result.
Yeah.
Uh, I briefly covered this in the on last Friday, I think. So we talked about the most important question. This is usually asked in an interview. Tell me something about yourself. You need to create a 2-minute speech. You either write it down or record a video, right? And then practice it multiple times before your interview. So that is important. Next can be strengths, weaknesses, failures, leadership experience. These are about you. Then about the PM role, right? What is your understanding of a PM role? Why product manager, or what do you understand by product management? And then there can be company specific questions. Why this company? You should prepare questions for the interviewer, right? All right. So next would be um, more product manager questions. So tell me about yourself. Why did you choose being a PM? What are the pros and cons of being a PM? Right? What are your strengths, weaknesses? And what are your top skills? Could you prove it with real examples? So whenever you answer such questions, always make it a point that wherever possible, you illustrate your answer with an example, with a real life example. And if you follow this star approach, this automatically happens. So many a times, if you use the star approach, everything is covered. So the situation, what was the situation when this happened? What was the task that you were given? What was the action that you took, that you completed? And what was the final result? So star helps. And then more questions. Now these can be related to PMs. Like how would you differentiate between what customers want and need? Some features are absolutely important, right? For example, WhatsApp is solving the problem of helping people connect with each other, messaging each other, right? That is the need part. People need to talk to each other, as in people need to, let's say, stay connected with each other. But what is the want part in WhatsApp? Any examples, guys? Lots of examples are there. What are the extra features in WhatsApp that we didn't need in the
The
first place?
want is that as soon as the message is sent, if you have a decent internet connection, the message is received in the other end without any change.
That is, so we want the message to be received, right?
Yeah, we want the message to be received without any manipulation from either side.
No, no, no. So
Look, from
see,
the
look at it from a need point of view. We need the message to be sent and received. That is the need part. So that feature here is the that we want the message to be delivered, right? That is the need. This is the purpose of WhatsApp. WhatsApp was created for sending and receiving messages.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry.
sending and receiving
I
is
made a
definitely
mistake.
a need.
Yeah, sorry, I made a mistake there.
Yeah. So that is a need. Take
A
then scene
want could
sign.
be emojis.
Correct. Want can be emojis. So the we didn't need to send emojis earlier, right? Or we don't need to send emojis. That is extra. Then someone mentioned this tick sign also. Yeah, we didn't have a tick sign earlier, right? I don't think we had this tick sign. This is a want.
Stickers and payment.
Stickers are there. Payment option was never a need. No one could even think of introducing payments to WhatsApp, but it is now a very good feature. So it was a want. Customers wanted to send money easily to each other. That was an extra feature. But now it is catering a different need, right? Think of it this way. This is basically a want because people come to WhatsApp for sending messages. But now it is catering to a different need. That is a need to send money to each other, right? Then a very good example is WhatsApp stories. We don't need WhatsApp stories, right? We just want to send messages to each other. That is the basic need of this of why we are using this platform. Then about us feature, yes. Um, Profile feature is also extra. All these lots of features are totally extra. These are uh, there for making our customer experience better. So these are wants, and the others are needs. Basic ones are the needs. Okay, then you can have more questions like why do you want this job? How does it fit into your overall career trajectory? Tell me about a time you had trouble building consensus. Then you can also have some sales related questions like sell me this pen, right? You'll have to pitch your pen to the interviewer. Then you would prioritize, how would you prioritize any four unrelated things but all essential to build a cohesive product? So all these are PM related questions. Now another common question is what will you do in the first 90 days if we hire you? So you should ideally, tell them about your roadmap. Let's say first 30 days you would try to, become very familiar with the product, with what all the company does, the business of the company, all that. And next you can look at, deep diving into a few products. Let's say next 30 days you can spend into deep diving into all of the products. And then also simultaneously talking to more and more people in the company, connecting with them, networking. And next 30 days you can focus down on your uh, key objectives that the company has defined for you, right? So you can answer this in a structured way. That will help. Okay. All right. So with this, we have covered all the types of interview questions, and I'll show you one by one what all we've done. So first, we did this thing, right? We did the critiquing design part. We talked about the framework, circles framework, that will help you, to improve a product, or tell whether a product, which feature is good or which feature is bad, and even improve the product, right? Build new features, do all of that. So that it will, the circles method will help you do. That is critiquing design or improving the design of a product. Then you also looked at pricing. There was a framework that we discussed. We need to give a specific recommendation. Then the metrics, we already did that. Then we can strategize. So we talked about product strategy. New market entry, market competition, company fit, framework, right? Porter's five forces, I mentioned this. You can go through Porter's five forces also. So this is, let's say, that same example. Google wants to launch a new OTT platform. That is where strategy questions would come in. Then we have estimation. This is guesstimates, top-down approach, bottom-up approach, right? Explain your assumptions. That is important. Ask clarifying questions. Okay, what else? So this is a summary of Decode and Conquer. Decode and Conquer is a widely recommended book for product management. Right. All right. Then we talked about, so we can come up with solutions in various methods. One is reversal, attribute, mix, match. Try to understand why you are doing something. What is the need that you are solving? Challenge the status quo. For example, earlier people were messaging each other through some difficult means, but after WhatsApp came in, they tried to challenge the status quo and improved that interaction experience. So this is the summary of this book, and we've covered almost everything here. Technical interview, we've also talked about what are some kinds of questions that can be asked.